Good morning slash afternoon slash evening, everyone. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling completely exhausted, even though you barely spoke? Certainly. Recognize the drain. Awareness is the first step, written as part of a speech without subheadings or a conclusion. The tone is professional, emotionally engaging, and expressive with use of punctuation like, for emphasis. Have you ever left a conversation feeling emotionally exhausted not because of what you said, but because of what you felt? You know the kind of moment I'm talking about, where someone walks in and suddenly the entire room feels heavier. You can't quite explain it, but your mood shifts, your shoulders tense, and your energy drops. That feeling, that's not just a coincidence, it's a signal. It's your intuition, your nervous system, your soul even, trying to tell you something or someone is draining you, but most of us brush that off. We ignore the quiet nudge inside us that says, this doesn't feel right. We've been conditioned to be polite, to be available, to keep the peace even when it costs us our peace. But protecting your energy starts long before you set boundaries or walk away. It begins with awareness, with recognizing the drain before it becomes damage, and that takes courage, because awareness, it demands honesty. It asks you to admit that certain people in your life, even those you care about, might not be good for your well-being. It pushes you to see situations clearly, not just kindly, and let's be real, that's not easy, is it? Sometimes the most draining people aren't strangers or enemies. They're the ones closest to us, the friend who only calls when they need something, the co-worker who never has a kind word, the family member who turns every conversation into criticism. They don't always scream toxicity, often they whisper it. In sarcasm, in passive aggression, in silence, and over time you begin to notice. You feel smaller around them, more anxious, less seen, less safe, and that inner voice keeps whispering, something's off here. Recognizing the drain means tuning into that voice instead of pushing it away. It means becoming an observer of your own life. Pay attention to the emotional aftertaste people leave behind. When you walk away from an interaction, do you feel empowered, neutral, or depleted? That answer alone is a powerful clue. Energy doesn't lie. You can feel it in your body. You can feel it in your breath. If every conversation feels like emotional labor, that's not connection, that's consumption. But here's the trap: we often confuse empathy with endurance. We think being a good person means sticking around, listening endlessly, offering our shoulder no matter how heavy the load becomes. But there's a difference between compassion and self-neglect. You can care without caring. You can support without sacrificing yourself. And the moment you start recognizing when someone is using your energy as their emotional outlet, that's the moment you begin to reclaim your power. Sometimes the drain isn't even dramatic. It's subtle. It hides in the small moments, the way someone never asks how you are, only what you can do for them, the way they roll their eyes at your wins, downplay your dreams, or make everything about themselves. It hides in manipulation disguised as concern, criticism masked as honesty, or neediness wrapped in guilt. And if you don't stay awake to it, if you keep giving people the benefit of the doubt when they've shown you the truth over and over again, the cost adds up. Slowly, quietly, until one day you wake up and realize you're running on empty, and you don't even know why. Recognizing the drain also means recognizing yourself in the process, because your body will tell you before your brain ever does. Maybe you start feeling tired after certain phone calls. Maybe you dread replying to that one text. Maybe your chest tightens when you see a particular name pop up. That's not just anxiety. That's wisdom. It's your inner world asking for protection. Are you listening? And here's the real twist. Sometimes the drain is coming from you, from your overgiving, from your inability to say no, from your fear of disappointing others. And that's where the deepest awareness lies, in understanding that energy isn't just about who you let in, but about who you become when you let go of what's not serving you. So take a look around your life. Not with judgment, but with clarity. Who feels light to be around? Who feels heavy? Who listens to you without shifting the spotlight? Who respects your space, your time, your no? These are questions worth asking because the answers hold your peace. Recognize the drain. Trust your senses. Protect your field. Not everyone deserves access to your energy, and the first step in keeping it sacred is noticing who's been quietly stealing it. Would you like this adapted into a video script or formatted for a spoken delivery, e.g., pause marks, breath cues, set clear boundaries, written in a professional, emotionally expressive tone without subheadings or a conclusion? The speech keeps the energy realistic and engaging, with moments of passion and clarity using, where appropriate, we've all been there saying yes, when every part of us was screaming no, smiling politely while someone crossed a line, staying in the conversation too long, entertaining the guilt, absorbing the discomfort, all because we didn't want to be difficult, selfish, or rude. But here's the truth most people never say out loud: you don't owe anyone unlimited access to you. You are not public property, and protecting your energy doesn't make you hard to love, it makes you someone who knows how to love themselves. Setting clear boundaries isn't about pushing people away, it's about protecting what you've worked hard to build within. It's about being available to others without abandoning yourself. So many of us were never taught how to set boundaries. We were taught to endure, to adapt to people. Please, we were praised for selflessness, not for self-respect. And over time, that praise became a cage, one where we thought saying no made us unkind, where prioritizing our needs felt like betrayal, where peace came second to politeness. But let me ask you this: what's the price of your peace? Your sleep, your clarity. If you don't draw the line, someone else will, and it won't be where you need it to be. Clear boundaries aren't cruelty, they are clarity, and people who genuinely care about you will respect them, not resent them. The ones who guilt trip you, who make you feel bad for taking care of yourself, who act like your limits are a problem, those are often the very reasons you needed boundaries in the first place. There's nothing heroic about being constantly available, endlessly giving, and emotionally wide open. You don't have to answer every call. You don't have to respond to every text right away. You don't have to sit in conversations that drain you just to prove you're a good person. You are not rude for walking away. You are not arrogant for protecting your time. You are not difficult for deciding what you will and will not tolerate. That's not weakness, that's growth, and yes, it will be uncomfortable at first. Setting boundaries can feel unnatural when you've spent a lifetime crossing your own just to keep others comfortable. You might hear, "You've changed," and you know what? They're right, you have changed. You've stopped shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You've stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You've stopped giving your energy to chaos and confusion. That kind of change is something to be proud of, not ashamed of. Some people won't like your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. They liked you better when you stayed quiet, said yes too much, tolerated too much, and gave too much. And when you start to reclaim that power, when you say, "I don't have space for this," or "that doesn't work for me," or "I'm not available for that kind of dynamic anymore," you shift everything. You raise the bar. Not just for how others treat you, but for how you treat yourself. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about controlling access to your energy. They're the filter through which you keep what nourishes you and let go of what depletes you. And they look different for everyone. Maybe it's turning your phone off after 8 p.m. Maybe it's limiting time with someone who constantly complains. Maybe it's choosing not to explain yourself when you decline an invite. Maybe it's cutting off a relationship that's become emotionally abusive, even if that person is family. Whatever the case, boundaries are about choosing you, not once, not occasionally, but consistently. When you set a boundary, you're not being mean, you're being honest. You're saying, "This is what I need to stay well." You're saying, "This is what I expect if we're going to continue." You're saying, "I matter too." And yes, your voice might shake. Your hands might tremble. Your heart might race the first few times. But I promise you, the more you do it, the stronger you become, the more natural it feels. Because when you live with strong boundaries, you stop living in resentment. You stop feeling burnt out. You stop questioning your worth. People often talk about self-love like it's just affirmations and bubble baths. But real self-love, it looks like setting boundaries that disappoint others and still choosing yourself anyway. It looks like not explaining your no and trusting that it's enough. It looks like putting space between you and what drains you, even if it's uncomfortable at first. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. So when you start showing up for yourself with honesty, with firmness, and with consistency, the world starts to shift. People may leave, people may complain, but the ones who stay, they'll be the ones who truly see you and truly respect you. Would you like the next section? Don't take it personally, expanded as well. Don't take it personally, written in a flowing, emotionally resonant tone without subheadings or a conclusion. The voice is grounded, expressive, and speaks directly to the listener's inner world. One of the hardest lessons to learn in life, and one of the most freeing, is this: not everything is about you. People will say things, do things, act out in ways that sting, and your first instinct might be to question yourself. What did I do wrong? Did I upset them? Am I not enough? But the truth, the kind that gives you back your power, is this: most of the time, their behavior has nothing to do with you. It's about them, their past, their pain, their patterns, their projections. And while you might feel the impact, you're not the cause. Taking things personally is like carrying around emotional luggage that was never yours to begin with. You feel weighed down by someone else's words, tone, silence, and suddenly, yourself worth starts to shrink. One comment, one cold look, one unanswered message, and there you are, spiraling into self-doubt. Why? Because we internalize things so quickly. We think, if they're distant, it must mean I upset them. If they criticized me, maybe I'm not good enough. If they left, maybe I wasn't worth staying for. But that's not truth, that's trauma, that's fear. That's the story your mind starts telling when you don't separate yourself from someone else's emotional chaos. Here's what's real: people project constantly. If they're insecure, they'll criticize others. If they're in pain, they'll lash out. If they've never been taught healthy communication, they'll blame, shame, or ghost. And it will feel personal, of course it will, because it hits personal, but that doesn't mean it is personal. Their reaction is a mirror of their inner world, not a measure of your worth. So when someone treats you poorly, before you collapse into guilt or anxiety, pause and ask yourself, is this really about me? Or is it about something unresolved in them? We spend so much of our lives editing ourselves to avoid triggering other people's wounds. We shrink our truth, walk on eggshells, over-explain, over-apologize, all because we think someone's reaction is a reflection of our failure. But that's exhausting. That's not peace, that's performance. And eventually, that performance turns into resentment. You start to resent the people you're constantly trying not to upset. You resent yourself for never feeling safe enough to just be. It takes emotional maturity to stop personalizing other people's behavior. It takes practice, but it's worth it, because once you stop taking things personally, you stop giving people unearned power over your inner state. You stop letting their mood dictate your day. You stop questioning your value every time someone else falls short of showing up. You begin to see their reaction as information, not identity. And let's be honest, we all have bad days. We all snap when we shouldn't. We all distance ourselves sometimes. So if we want others to show us grace when we're not at our best, we have to be willing to extend that same grace outward. But grace doesn't mean tolerance. It doesn't mean you excuse disrespect. It simply means you stop making their behavior a reflection of your character. It's so easy to assume we are the reason for someone's coldness, someone's anger, someone's silence. But sometimes, people are just carrying things they don't know how to talk about. They don't know how to ask for help, or they've never done the work to heal, and so they bleed on the people who didn't cut them. But you don't have to wear those wounds. You don't have to absorb their pain to prove your empathy. You are not responsible for fixing what you didn't break, and you are not the villain in someone else's unhealed story. Your worth isn't up for negotiation based on who validates it or who doesn't. You don't need every interaction to end with approval in order to feel okay about yourself. You don't need to be understood by everyone. Sometimes you will be misunderstood, misjudged, even disliked, and that's okay. Let them. You are not here to be palatable. You're here to be real. So the next time someone says something that cuts deep, ask yourself, is this really about me? Or is this about their own struggle, their fear, their history? And if the answer is the latter, let it go. Don't carry it. Don't wear it. Don't own what was never yours. Your peace depends on your ability to separate your value from other people's projections. And when you learn to do that, something powerful happens. You stop chasing validation. You stop over-explaining. You stop fearing rejection because you know who you are, and more importantly, you finally stop giving the mic to those who were never qualified to narrate your worth. Would you like the next point, guard your space, expanded as well, guard your space, written in a powerful, emotionally resonant style without subheadings or a conclusion? The tone is firm yet human, with expressive punctuation like, to enhance realism and authenticity. Your space is sacred, and I'm not just talking about the four walls around you. I'm talking about your mental space, your emotional space, your spiritual space, the internal ground you stand on every day. And the truth is, not everyone deserves to walk freely through that space. Not every energy deserves to sit at your table. Not every voice deserves a seat in your head. Because when you stop guarding your space, it becomes open territory for anyone to wander in and dump their chaos, their negativity, their noise, and then leave you to clean it all up. You can feel it, can't you? When someone walks in and shifts the energy, you were calm before, maybe even content, and now suddenly you're drained, overwhelmed, questioning yourself, or even worse, questioning your worth. That's not just a bad vibe. That's a warning. That's your nervous system whispering, this doesn't belong here. But what do? We override it. We say, be nice, be patient, be polite. And while we're busy being everything for everyone else, they're filling our space with doubt, with guilt, with emotional clutter that was never ours to hold. Guarding your space isn't about being cold. It's about being conscious. It's about knowing that peace isn't a passive thing, it's something you protect. You earn it, and you defend it with choices that honor your well-being. Because let's be honest, some people aren't just negative. They're reckless with their energy. They don't want healing. They want an audience. They don't want support. They want control. They don't want connection. They want company in their chaos. And if you're not alert, you'll confuse that for friendship, love, even loyalty, and that confusion will cost you more than you think. Your space should be a sanctuary, not a dumping ground. You get to decide who gets access. You get to decide who gets to speak into your life. You get to decide what stays and what goes. That's not being harsh, that's being healthy. You can love people and still limit how close they stand. You can be kind and still create distance. You can care deeply and still say, this energy isn't welcome here. But that starts with awareness, who constantly interrupts your peace, who brings more drama than depth, who drains you more than they develop you. These aren't small questions, they're survival level choices, because energy is contagious. When you surround yourself with people who complain constantly, you start to see the world through a lens of lack. When you're around people who manipulate, control, or criticize, you begin to doubt your worth. And when you're surrounded by emotional chaos, it becomes very hard to access your inner calm. That's not accidental, that's impact. So guard your space like your future depends on it, because it does. You can't create, grow, or evolve in an environment that's working against you. You can't build peace in a war zone of opinions, projections, and expectations. You can't pour into your dreams when someone's always poking holes in your confidence. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is walk away. Sometimes the most powerful move is silence. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every conflict is yours to resolve. Not every invitation to chaos needs your RSVP. Think of your space like a garden. What are you letting grow there? What seeds are you watering? Is it filled with joy, clarity, and purpose? Or is it overrun with weeds you didn't plant but allowed anyway? Guarding your space means choosing what stays. It means pruning what no longer serves. It means recognizing when the atmosphere doesn't align with the version of yourself you're trying to become. And yes, it will take boundaries. It will take uncomfortable conversations. It will take walking away from people who once felt like home. But remember this, growth often requires distance. Healing sometimes demands silence. And your space will only be as peaceful as the people and patterns you allow inside it. So the next time someone tries to guilt you for saying no, remember no is a full sentence. The next time someone accuses you of being too much, or too guarded. Smile and say, no, I've just learned how to protect my peace. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how many people like you, need you, or understand you. It's about how you feel when you're alone with your own energy. Are you at peace? Are you proud of the space you've created? Does it feel like home? If not, maybe it's time to guard it a little more fiercely. Would you like to continue with the next section? Choose your circle wisely. Speak less, observe more. Written in an emotionally expressive, realistic, and engaging tone, without subheadings or conclusion. Sometimes the loudest person in the room knows the least. And sometimes the quietest one is watching everything, learning, analyzing, understanding people and energy in ways no words could ever express. There is power in silence. There is strength in stillness. In a world that rewards constant talking, instant reactions, and endless noise, choosing to observe instead of jumping to respond is not weakness. It's wisdom. We live in a time where everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to make a point, to prove themselves, to argue, to show up loudly. But what if you don't need to prove anything? What if the real mastery lies in not saying everything you think, but in paying attention to what others reveal when they think you're not watching closely? Because they will reveal it. People always do. When you speak less, you start to see more. You notice the subtle shift in someone's tone when they say they're fine. You notice who changes the subject when something real comes up. You catch the energy behind the words, not just the words themselves. You start to see what's not being said, and that's where the truth lies. Most people listen just to reply. They're not really taking anything in, they're waiting for their turn to talk. But when you slow down, when you stop needing to be the loudest or the smartest or the most impressive, you begin to understand people on a deeper level. You learn what they value, what they hide, what they fear. You learn how they treat people when no one's watching. You learn what kind of energy they bring, not just what kind of image they project. There is a type of clarity that only comes when you stop filling space with your voice. Silence lets other people fill in the blanks, and often, what they choose to say when you give them space tells you everything. You don't have to interrogate. You don't have to explain yourself over and over. Sometimes the less you say, the more they reveal, and the better you understand who you're really dealing with. Speaking less also protects your peace. Not everything needs a response. Not every comment deserves your energy. Not every invitation to argue is worth accepting. When you stop reacting impulsively, you stop handing over your power. You stop fueling situations that drain you. You stop saying things you'll later regret just to defend a point that didn't even matter. Observation gives you space to respond with intention, not just emotion. It gives you room to process, to feel, to assess, to decide if something is even worth your breath. And so many things aren't. Not every slight needs to be confronted. Not every disagreement needs to be resolved. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing and watch everything. And let's be honest, not everyone you meet needs to know everything about you. Your peace, your plans, your inner world, that's sacred, that's yours. You don't owe your story to people who haven't earned the right to hear it. Oversharing is not the same as connection, and silence doesn't mean you're hiding, it means you're choosing what and when to share, and with whom. Some people fear silence because it forces them to sit with themselves. But if you're comfortable with your own presence, if your truly grounded, silence becomes a weapon, not a weakness. It becomes a boundary. It becomes a signal that you're not here to entertain egos or play into surface level energy. You're here for realness, depth, awareness. When you speak less and observe more, you also give yourself room to grow. You hear the conversations happening around you not just to respond, but to learn. You watch how people handle pressure, how they treat others, how consistent their actions are with their words. You stop romanticizing potential and start recognizing patterns. And from that place, you make better decisions, not out of emotion, but out of clarity. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being deliberate. It's about knowing the value of your voice and understanding that just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. Silence isn't emptiness. It's intelligence in motion. And when you start honoring the pause, that quiet space between stimulus and response, that's when you begin to live from wisdom, not impulse. So yes, speak. But do it with purpose, with care, with calm, and in the meantime watch, listen, feel, because in the silence, in the stillness, in the observing, you'll learn more than any amount of talking could ever teach. Would you like to continue with the final section? Choose your circle wisely, choose response over reaction, crafted with emotional depth and realism, using natural spoken rhythm and powerful punctuation like to convey a sincere and grounded tone. Without subheadings or a conclusion, there will always be moments in life that hit you sideways. Someone says something cruel. A situation unfolds unfairly. You're blindsided by disrespect, by misunderstanding, by chaos. And in that split second, your emotions light up like fire. Your heart races, your pride screams, your mind starts spinning stories, and there it is, the urge to react, to say something sharp, to prove your point, to defend your name, to match the energy that just hurt you. But that's the trap, isn't it? That instant reaction, it feels powerful in the moment, but more often than not, it costs you more than it's worth. There is a difference between reacting and responding, and that difference can shape the entire course of your life. Reactions are impulsive. They come from a raw, emotional place. They're fast, loud, and often fueled by ego or pain. But a response, a real response that comes from awareness, it's deliberate, it's grounded, it's not about control over others, it's about control over yourself. When someone triggers you, the question isn't, how do I make them feel what I feel? The question is, who do I want to be in this moment? That's power, that's self-respect, that's emotional intelligence. Because let's be honest, anyone can clap back. Anyone can throw shade, yell, or retaliate. That doesn't make you strong. What makes you strong is being able to pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this energy mine to carry? Is this even worth it? What will this cost me? My peace, my progress, my character? Most people are living on autopilot, reacting without reflection. And when you live like that, you end up controlled by everything outside of you. One rude comment ruins your whole day. One conflict throws off your focus. One disappointment turns into self-doubt. But the moment you learn to pause, to check in with yourself before you move, something shifts. You stop being at the mercy of life, and you start leading your life. And no, choosing your response doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It means knowing that not every situation deserves the full weight of your energy. It means realizing that peace is something you choose, not something you wait for. You protect your energy by responding with intention, not with reactivity. Imagine this, someone disrespects you. You feel the fire rise in your chest. Your instinct says, match them, cut them down, show them they can't get away with it. But then you pause, and in that pause, you see clearly. You realize that reacting won't heal the wound, it'll just deepen it. You realize that some people want your reaction because it feeds their drama, their chaos. But when you don't give it to them, when you stay calm, steady, unmoved, that's when they lose control. That's when you keep yours. Response over reaction doesn't just change how you handle conflict, it changes your relationships, your reputation, your leadership, your future. It builds trust because people know you're not going to explode under pressure. It builds resilience because you stop breaking every time something goes wrong. And it builds self-respect because you stop betraying yourself just to win temporary battles. This is emotional maturity. It's grace under fire. It's the ability to carry yourself with dignity even when everything around you feels messy. And yes, it takes practice. It takes failing sometimes, catching yourself mid-reaction and saying, I could have done better. That's growth. That's where the work happens, but over time, those pauses become your power. You stop giving people the keys to your mood. You stop being hijacked by every little trigger. You begin to own your energy, your choices, your presence. So the next time something pushes your buttons, try this. Don't move right away. Don't speak just to fill the silence. Don't react just to feel heard. Breathe, watch, choose. Maybe you'll speak with more clarity. Maybe you'll walk away. Maybe you'll say nothing at all. But whatever you do, let it come from a place of peace, not pressure. Because when you choose response over reaction, you choose yourself, your peace, your power, your future. And that is always a choice worth making, especially in a world that's constantly trying to pull you out of alignment. Hold your ground. Be the calm. Be the pause. Be the one who chooses.